Hi guys, welcome back. Let us start the important topics for economy for the prelims 2024. So guys, the very first topic we will start from where we ended yesterday. So guys, this year the theme of employment is very important. Theme of employment is very important. In employment, yesterday we have discussed that they may ask questions on the various terms related to employment like the labor force participation rate, unemployment rate, these kinds of things. Then related to this concept is a concept of informalization of workforce. What is informalization of workforce? So guys, the workforce which is not having any kind of social security, is said to be workforce of informal sector. Okay, so informal sector workforce in India is around 90% and their contribution to the national income is around 50%. Okay, so this is a very important number. India has one of the largest number of workforce in informal sector, and that is the main reason why India does not have an inclusive growth. Why India does not have an inclusive growth? Because most of the workers, they are basically in informal sector. Informal sector, basically the wages are low and there is no social security. So obviously their situation is not good. Mostly they are in poverty. Okay, so related to this now, what is happening is that, okay, a new economy is coming up, which is called gig economy. In gig economy also, it's a kind of an informal work only, okay, because here also there is no employee-employer relationship and there is no permanent work, okay. So nowadays, because of this Uberization, and because of these internet companies coming up, most of their employees, most of their workers, not employees, are not their employees. They are basically a kind of a platform partner. They're kind of a platform partner. So the number of workforce engaged in this sector is increasing sharply. Okay, right now it is around 1.5% of the total workforce. So this fact can be used in the UPSC prelims examination. Okay, one thing you need to keep in mind is that the Code of Social Security 2020, the Code of Social Security 2020, which is part of the Labor Code, basically extends benefits to platform workers, including maternity benefit, life and disability cover, old age protection, provident fund, and employment in injury benefits. Okay, so these are this is a very important stuff because they may ask you question that the labor code does not have anything related to gig economy workers. So this is not completely true. Yes, there are some provisions given for the gig economy workers also in Code of Social Security 2020. Next, guys, a very important topic this year is the female labor force participation rate. Guys, recently Nobel Prize was given for the work, of the Claudia Goldin in the gender pay gap, So guys, if you see here, the gender workforce participation rate is explained by a U-shaped curve. In U-shaped curve, what happens is that in the initial agriculture economy, what happens? More number of people are working in the workforce. So more number of women are there in the workforce. When the economy is agriculture, slowly, what happens when the income levels increase? So less number of women, they work in the workforce and they just stay at home and they keep the care of the children's, okay, because the income levels are increasing. Slowly, when the income level increases more, so women, they start getting educated, and now they are getting work in the service sector, which is good quality work, like the IT sector, the hospitality sector, the industry, okay, various industries. So slowly, what happens once the country start getting developed? Country start getting developed, again the women workforce participation rate starts increasing. This is called U-shaped curve. Guys, traditionally, you see here, India's female labor force participation rate is one of the lowest in the world. You can see here, most of the countries, they have above 40. Some countries even have 60%. You can see here, okay, many countries have 60%, many countries have 40%, but India has one of the lowest, around 23-24%. Obviously, why? The reason is because of patriarchy. because of patriarchy, because of discrimination, because of low wage, okay, because of disparity in the wage. However, recently we have seen that there has been some jump in the female labor force participation rate. People say that it is now increasing around 32%, but traditionally in the last 30 years it is hovering around 23%. Out of the entire G20 country, India has one of the lowest G20, one of the lowest female labor force participation rate. Is this clear, guys? And one more thing you need to remember is the Global Gender Gap Report. Global Gender Gap Report is brought out by World Economic Forum. Okay, next, guys, this topic also we have discussed yesterday when we were discussing the this one, when we were discussing the this one, what is it called? Okay, the competition, when we were discussing Competition Commission of India. Okay, so there we have discussed monopoly, oligopoly, okay, and perfect competition. So there is a term called abuse of dominance. There is a term called abuse of dominance. Okay, so this is prohibited under Section 4 of the Competition Act. Okay, so Act prohibits abuse of dominance. Okay, it prevents any company to basically exploit its dominant position in the industry. So guys, you see here Google, okay, Google has been trying to exploit its dominant position, and where it is not allowing many small startups, okay, by charging very high in the Google Play Store. Okay, so this episode, this incident is going on, so they may ask you about this topic. Next, guys, India's smartphone exports. So guys, this is a very important development which has taken, guys. There has been 80% rise. There has been 80% rise in India's smartphone export, and now it has reached to 12 billion. However, if you compare to the global levels, still India is not having very much share. If you see, India's share is still around 2% of the global smartphone, 2.5% of the global smartphone. If you compare this with Vietnam, Vietnam is now taking the second position in the global export of smartphones. Its share is now increasing to around 12% of the global smartphone exports. It has overcome the South Korea. It has overcome the South Korea as the second most exporter of the smartphones. Guys, the largest exporter of smartphone is China. Okay, and India is also doing good, but if you compare it to Vietnam, okay, so yesterday we have discussed this China plus one strategy. So guys, when I discussed this China plus one strategy, I told that there are many countries which are competing for this one position. Okay, these countries are Vietnam, these countries are Indonesia, these countries are India. So what is happening is that Vietnam is taking lead over India, and now it is basically coming into this China plus one strategy. Means like Vietnam is emerging as an alternative to China. Many countries, they do not want to depend on China, so they want finding alternatives. So this is smartphone is a very good example where you see here Vietnam is taking the lead because of its lower taxations, because of its favorable conditions. Okay, so this is very important development. Next, guys, employment elasticity. This we have explained yesterday also. Guys, employment elasticity has been falling. You can see here employment elasticity has been falling. Okay, because of the capital intensive growth. Because of the capital intensive growth after the 1991 economic reforms. Next, guys, next topic which is news is inheritance tax, guys. Recently, there was one debate where one of the Congress advisors, okay, Sam Pitroda, he suggested inheritance tax in order to bring, okay, redistribution of wealth. So why are we discussing redistribution of wealth? We are discussing redistribution of wealth because inequality in India is becoming very high. Yesterday we have discussed, okay, according to some reports, 1% of top Indian, okay, they have around 24 or 22% of the total national income, and 1% of the Indians, they have around 40% of some wealth. Okay, you can just cross check the data. So in order to check this rising inequality, inheritance tax has been suggested. So guys, India already had an inheritance kind of tax, okay, in 1980s, which is called the kind of a estate tax, okay, which is now, okay, abolished in 1985, So guys, there is a small difference between inheritance tax wealth tax and estate tax. Many people, they get confused. What is inheritance tax? What is wealth tax? And what is the estate tax? Inheritance tax is basically kind of a death tax. Why? Because generally inheritance tax is taxed only once in a life. Okay, once in a life, when a person dies, okay, and the money or whatever wealth is transferred to the heirs, okay, to his children's, then they have to pay the inheritance tax. Okay, that is called inheritance tax. Okay, guys. Okay, as far as wealth tax is concerned, wealth tax is a kind of a annual tax. Okay, it is not once in a lifetime tax. Inheritance tax is a once in a lifetime tax when the rich person dies. Okay, and when the wealth is transferred to his children, that is called inheritance tax. Wealth tax is an annual tax which is charged to the owner of the wealth when he is alive. Whereas estate tax is basically a tax which is charged, okay, on the wealth which is transferred by the donors. Okay, so you see here there is a small difference. Estate tax basically, okay, estate tax is paid out from the estate of the deceased before it is transferred, whereas inheritance tax is paid by the person who inherits the money. So there is a difference here, guys. There is a difference. Is this clear, guys? Estate tax and inheritance tax, there is a difference. What is the difference? Here the money is tax is given by the person who gets the money. Here estate tax, first you have to pay the tax and then only the estate will be transferred. Okay, guys. So the main importance is the redistribution of wealth to check the inequality. To check the inequality. So these three differences between inheritance tax, wealth tax, and estate tax is very important. India does not have inheritance tax. India does not have wealth tax. India does not have kind of a estate tax. India has some sort of gift tax. Okay, in Income Tax Act. In the Income Tax Act also. Okay, it is only in Income Tax Act. Initially it was abolished. Later on in 2004 it was again brought up in the Income Tax Act only, gift tax. Okay, guys. So you can see here, guys. You can see here. Okay, did India had ever any inheritance tax? So yes, India had an inheritance tax in form of estate duty. In form of estate duty, which is now abolished. Which is now abolished in 1985. Why it was abolished? Because it was having very less, okay, collection, 20 crores only, and it was like a lot of, okay, a lot of evasion used to happen, so they abolished it. Okay, next, guys, the important concept of personal income tax versus the corporate income tax. Guys, you will be surprised to know that in India, what is happening is the personal income tax, which is called the PIT, it is rising, whereas the corporate income tax, okay, compared to the personal income tax, it is not rising that much. That is why the collection of PIT, which is personal income tax, is more than the corporate income tax. This means what? This is what is called inequality. This is what is called inequality. Why? Because the corporate tax, who pays corporate tax? Big people like Ambani's, okay, rich people, Tata's, okay, and personal income tax is paid by everyone. It is paid by everyone. So the collection of CIT, total collection of CIT, corporate income tax, is less than the personal income tax, and this is clear indication that the taxation which we have in India kind of is not very progressive. Is not very progressive. Again, I'm saying, I'm using the word not very progressive. Okay, you have to be very careful what words I'm choosing. Don't get confused. Okay, so guys, you can see here. Okay, I'll just show you. Okay, corporate tax, you know why it is decreasing compared to the personal income tax, because in 2019, okay, there was a massive cut in the corporate tax by 10 percentage points, and corporate tax was reduced to 15%. Corporate tax was reduced to 15%. What is the logic, guys? The logic was Lafar curve. The logic was Lafar curve. What is Lafar curve? Lafar curve says that initially when we increase the tax rate, the tax collection increases. After that, the tax collection starts decreasing. This is called the tax rate, guys. And this is called the tax collection. It's called tax collection. So initially it rises and later on it is decreased. This is called the optimal tax rate. It's called the optimal tax rate. It's called the optimal tax rate. Okay, guys, Lafar curve. Okay, guys. So it was thought that if we reduce the corporate income tax, then corporates will invest more in the economy. However, this has not happened. Why? Because the demand is not there. Next point, guys, you can see here. You can see here, guys, a kind of a regressive tax in India, because you see indirect tax collection. Initially, it was reducing. Okay. But after 2008, 2009, you see indirect tax has been rising. Okay, indirect tax has been rising. You see, in 1980, indirect tax collection was 80%, whereas direct tax collection was only 20%. It increased to 40%, 45%, again it started declining. You see here. So indirect tax is more than direct tax in India. This is what? Kind of a regressive tax. Guys, 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 regressive tax. Is this clear, guys? Anyone? Guys, quickly. Anyone has any doubts? Anyone has any doubt? Okay. Anyone has any doubt quickly? Okay. Yeah, someone was saying, see, someone was saying that the corporate tax is 22%. Yes, it is 22% also, 15% for newly incorporated domestic company, and overall for companies which are already existing, it is 22%. Yes, 30% to 22%. So this is, you have to remember, this is for newly incorporated company. Okay, 15% is for the newly incorporated company. Okay, so this, take note of this. It's very important. Someone has pointed out in the comment box. Thank you for that. Okay, it's already there in your notes. I'm just highlighting important stuff. I'm not here teaching. It's not the teaching class. It's just highlighting the important stuff. Okay, or everything is given in the notes. Okay, I'm just highlighting the main points. You see here, this is called the personal income tax. You see, it is the share is rising, and this is the corporate tax. You see, corporate tax is less than the personal income tax. Okay, guys, so you can take note of it. Okay, it's very important. Next, guys, tax trends and tax to GDP ratio. Guys, recently tax to GDP ratio has reached one of the highest in India, which is around 11%. And if you combine state and central tax, it is around 16%. So guys, tax to GDP ratio is a very important parameter, because guys, without tax collection, government will not have revenues for developmental activities and for welfare activities. So tax to GDP ratio is very important. Okay. And if you see, compare it to the OECD countries, the OECD countries have very high tax to GDP ratio. Some countries have 24, 25, 26% also, whereas India's tax to GDP ratio is very comparatively less. The reason why tax to GDP ratio is less in India is because of tax evasion, poor tax administration, agriculture not taxed, low tax base, and informal nature of Indian economy. Guys, there's a concept called tax buoyancy. What is tax buoyancy? Guys, tax buoyancy is what? The collection of tax revenue increases if the GDP increases, if the economy grows. That is called tax buoyancy. That is called tax buoyancy. Okay, so as the GDP increases, if more tax is collected, that is called the taxation is what? Buoyant. Buoyant means, okay, as the GDP grows, more tax is collected. Another concept is the concept of tax base. Concept of tax base. Guys, tax base is the base on which government can levy taxes. So guys, India's tax base is very narrow. India's tax base is very narrow. Okay, according to some estimate, less than 1% of the total population of India pays the tax. Less than 1% of the total population in India pays the tax. I will request every one of you to, okay, go and know the facts regarding number of people who pay income tax, number of people who, okay, so like number of people who, what to say, file income tax, number of people who file zero income tax. Okay, so all those data I have already given in the card. You can have a look at it. These are factual data. I don't want to read it. You can just go through that. You can just go through that. Okay, guys. Next, guys, GSTN. GSTN what? GST network. It's called GST network. It is a non-profit organization, government-owned companies. Non-profit organization, government-owned companies. It is kind of an IT backbone. It is kind of an IT backbone. GST network. Why it is in news? Because GST network is now under the PLMA. Okay, very important. PLMA. So guys, any kind of tax evasion now will come under the PLMA. GST network is in PLMA. They have to provide information to the PLMA authorities, Enforcement Directorate, all those things. Next, guys, FIU is in news. So FIU is a part of the Ministry of Finance. Okay, it is basically an independent body which reports to Economic Intelligence Council, and Economic Intelligence Council is headed by the Finance Minister. So FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, which basically receives, processes, and analyzes, disseminates information about financial transaction. Okay, suspicious financial transactions. So basically, it has members from CBGT, CBEC, RBI, SEBI, Department of Legal Affairs, and intelligence agencies, and they work under Economic Intelligence Council, and Economic Intelligence Council is headed by the Finance Minister. Finance Minister. Very, very important. FIU is in news. Next, guys, National Logistics Policy. Guys, National Logistics Policy 2023, last year it came. So, guys, the aim of the National Logistics Policy is to reduce the logistics cost, okay, to the global benchmark of 2030. Global benchmark is around 8% of the GDP cost. Okay. Second is to aim to be the top 25 countries in logistics performance index by 2030. So guys, logistics performance index is brought by World Bank. So then UPSC sometimes call this also. It's very, very important. So these are the steps taken, okay, under the logistics policy: integrated digital logistics system standardization, logistics human resource development, all these kinds of, you can just go through it. Okay, next is, guys, IMF wants debt concern in India. So this is very, very important, guys. As per the report, Article 14 report, 4 report, as per the Article 4 report. So they can ask you, what is Article 4 report? What is Article 4 report? What is Article 4 report? So Article 4 report is a kind of a report on the external sector of any economy. Okay, assessment. So guys, as per the recent Article 4 report, it says that in vulnerable situation, India's debt can reach to 100% of the GDP. Right now, India's debt is around 84% of the GDP. Right now, India's debt is around 84% of the GDP, and this debt has increased in the last 20 years from 81% to 84%. So should we be concerned? The point is that should we be concerned? So Government of India is saying that we should not be concerned. Why? First of all, India's debt to GDP ratio is still 84%, which is lower than other emerging countries like China, Brazil, and other countries. I will just show you the number in quick seconds. Okay. Second thing, why we should not be concerned is that most of the sovereign debt is basically denominated in domestic currency. Okay, so is denominated in domestic currency, not in external currency, that we are vulnerable. We are not vulnerable to any kind of shock in the external sector. Okay, this is very, very important. Okay, very, very important. So this you should keep in mind. Next, IMF has also reclassified India's exchange rate as stabilized arrangement. Okay, this is again very important. Okay, because these terms are very, very important. They may play with these terms. Okay, guys, you can see this is the report of the Government of India. You can see here how much debt Japan has. Japan has 260% of the GDP. Singapore has 160% of the GDP. USA has 121% of the GDP. Sri Lanka has 115% of the GDP. France has 101% of GDP. UK has 101% of GDP. Brazil has 85% of the GDP. Even China has more than us. Debt. India's debt is only 84%. Okay, which is basically lower than other countries. So this is Government of India's justification that we should not be concerned. Is this clear, guys? Okay. So you can see Government of India is saying the general government debt, including both center and state, has steeply declined from 88% in 2020-21 to 81% of 2020-23. Okay. And center is on track to achieve stated fiscal consolidation target to reduce the fiscal deficit of 4.5%. And even states have to reduce their fiscal deficit by fiscal responsibility legislation of the state. So keep in mind, they may ask question on this. Okay. Debt is a very important question. I am predicting that definitely UPSC will ask question on external debt or debt. Okay, very, very important. Okay, this topic is very, very important. Next, okay, so the concept of public debt, okay, which I was telling you, it is one of the most important topic this year. Okay, definitely you will have a question. So I have told you what is the debt to GDP ratio. Okay, it's around, okay, government is saying that it's around 81% in 2022, 2023. You can see here, we have mentioned it. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so mainly what is the problem with debt, guys? The problem with debt is that if the debt levels are high, then the there is reduction in consumption, there is reduction in demand, there is crowding out of investment because of high interest rates, there is reduced spending in social sector, there is increased taxation, and it affects the liquidity and money market. So these are the negative impacts of debt. Negative impacts of debt, you should know that. Okay. So guys, just go through it. As I told you, most of the India's debt is in rupee denominated debt. It's a very external currency debt is very small percentage of the total debt. That is why we are not vulnerable. Okay. Next, guys, there is a concept called capital account convertibility. Guys, we all know that there are two accounts, capital account and current account. Okay. So guys, we have current account convertibility. We do not have capital account convertibility. Capital account convertibility basically pertains to freedom of converting the domestic currency to foreign currencies and vice versa for balance of payment transaction encompassing the movement of foreign assets and liabilities. Okay, so guys, the Tharapur committee has talked about that, okay, we must go for capital account convertibility. Okay, so guys, why are we not going for capital account convertibility? The reason is, guys, if you go for capital account convertibility, there will be some benefits, no doubt about it. We will get more foreign inflows. We will get more foreign inflows into the Indian markets, more FDIs, more FPIs. However, there are some vulnerabilities. There are some vulnerabilities, like it will expose us to external vulnerabilities. Like people may just take away the money, which is called the hot money. The what hot money? It is called what? Hot money. Okay. So external vulnerabilities, reduction of foreign reserves, and okay, complex monetary policy transmission. It will complicate the monetary policy transmission because the inflows and outflows now, once it is capital account convertibility, will not be regulated by the RBI. It will not be regulated by RBI. Right now, RBI regulates, okay, how much money you can take back, okay, in dollars. Okay, that is regulated by RBI. The full capital account convertibility provides investors the opportunities to diversify investments and reduce geographical risk, benefiting both the foreign investors and NRI. So they will get benefited. They will be able to bring money to India. They will be able to take money out of India whenever they wish. However, it will increase what? It will increase vulnerability of Indian economy. It will increase the vulnerability of Indian economy. Is this clear, guys? Is this clear? Anybody has any trouble? Anybody has any trouble? Anybody has any trouble? Similarly, guys, internationalization of rupee. Okay, it is also related to the same concept of capital account convertibility. Internationalization of rupee is basically when you start using rupee for cross-border transactions. Right now, most of the cross-border transaction is taking place in dollars. Okay, dollars. When we promote rupee for import and export, generally that is called internationalization of rupee. So guys, it is a good thing only if we start trading in internationalization of rupee, then obviously we will not need that kind of foreign exchange. Okay, so that is not there. So we can save a lot of foreign exchange. Okay, we can reduce the foreign exchange exposure for Indian corporate. Okay, and we can reduce the dependence in foreign exchange reserves also. This also we can do. So there are some benefits also, there are some challenges also. Next, guys, Indian bond index. Okay, Indian bonds added in various global bond index like JP Morgan index, okay, Bloomberg index. So there are various index, okay, where now, okay, Indian bond is basically added. So they are not going to ask about the JP Morgan bond index. Rather than what they are going to ask, what will be the benefit? What will be the benefit of, what will be the impact of India joining the JP Morgan bond index or any kind of Bloomberg bond index? What is the reason? So the main reason is, guys, it will lead to influx of funds into Indian debt market, into Indian debt market. Second, it will lead to reduction of borrowing cost by the Indian government. Third, it will increase the liquidity. Fourth, it will expand the ownership of the government securities. Next, it will strengthen the rupee because a lot of money when come to India. See, when more and more dollar come to India, rupee will strengthen. Where the more and more dollar leave India, rupee will be weakened. Okay, and it will also help in the borrowing of borrowing of the government. Okay, so these are the benefits which will come when India join any bond index. Okay, next guys, the next concept is the double taxation avoidance agreement change, which has happened recently regarding Mauritius. Guys, Mauritius is a small country. However, it is one of the largest source of FPI into India. One of the largest source of money coming to Indian markets, Indian capital markets. Okay, so why? How is the Mauritius, which is a very small country, is a source of so much FPI into India? What is the main reason? Okay, what is the main reason? Okay, guys, the main reason for this is that round tripping. Guys, Mauritius is having a double taxation avoidance agreement with India, because of which what happens is that lot of companies in India, they will just park their money in Mauritius, and through Mauritius they will round trip the money into India. This is called round tripping. This is called round tripping. They can ask you round tripping. They can ask you why Mauritius is a source of one of the largest investments into India. Why? How Mauritius? It's a small country. It's a small country. What is the main reason for that? The reason is what? The reason is what? The reason is the round tripping. The reason is round tripping because Mauritius have low taxation. So many Indian companies, they take out money from India, they pump it to Mauritius, and from Mauritius they again bring back to India in order to evade taxes. In order to evade taxes. That is called round tripping. So guys, you see now recently there has been what? Changes in the Mauritius double taxation avoidance phase. So now what they have done is that they have brought principal purpose test called PPT test. Okay, PPT test, where the treaty benefits are not granted if obtaining such benefits was one of the primary purpose of any investments. Okay, so this principal purpose test is a very important test in order to basically avoid, in order to protect any kind of tax evasion. Okay, this is very, very important. Round tripping, again I'm saying this question is going to come. Okay, you mark my word, this question is going to come. This question is going to come. This question is going to come. This question is also going to come. Guarantee. This is a guarantee from my son. Guarantee. Okay, this question is going to come. This question is going to come, and this question is also going to come. Very high chances. Next guys. Okay, the globe pillar 2. Okay, pillar 2 of global taxation. Okay guys, so guys, we all know that many countries, because of low taxation, what happens is that there are many countries which are called tax havens. What are tax havens, guys? Tax havens are low tax administrations. Okay, the places where have very low taxation. So many companies, what they do, they shift their company in the low taxation administration areas, which are also called tax havens. Okay, so what is this called? This is called base erosion profit shifting. So guys, throughout the world, many countries like India and other countries, they lose a lot of taxes. From these multinational companies, who basically they set up their headquarters in these low taxation tax havens in order to evade taxes. So now what they have done is that they have come out with a treaty which is called the Globe Pillar 2 Treaty. The Globe Pillar 2 Treaty of OECD basically says that minimum 50%, minimum 15% taxation must be there on big businesses. Minimum 50%, 15% taxation has to be there. No country can say that we will not tax anything. Okay, because this leads to what? Tax evasion, base erosion, profit shifting. Okay, very, very important. Next, guys, safeguard duties. Guys, safeguard duties. Okay, so in this, guys, two important duties are very important: countervailing duties and anti-dumping duties. So both are kind of a protectionist measure. Okay, kind of. Okay, they are not considered as a protectionist measure, but they are kind of a protectionist measure to protect the domestic industry. Okay, to protect the domestic energy in the industry against any foreign imports which are believed to be below market value. Suppose China, okay, is exporting steel into India, and if China is exporting steel into India below the market value, so what will happen? That many Indian domestic producers of steel, they will be out of market. Why? Because China is selling steel at below the market value. This is called anti-dumping duty. What is countervailing duty? Countervailing duty, what happens is that suppose a country like China, okay, it gives a lot of subsidies to its industry, and because of that the prices are low, and they go and flood the market of other countries. It is called countervailing. Then you can impose what? Countervailing duty. Then you can impose what? Countervailing duty. Safeguard measure, it is also kind of a tariff increase to check imports of particular products that have caused serious injury to domestic producers. These are called safeguard measures for, again, protection of, okay, domestic manufacturers. Okay, guys, very, very important. Next, guys, China India trade relationship. Guys, unfortunately, this year again, China has displaced America and has become the largest trading partner of India. The largest trading partner of India. Total trade between India and China has been around $136 billion, which is the largest India trading partner, okay, above USA. Above USA. But the concern, why we are concerned? The concern is, guys, the trade deficit has now increased to $100 billion, $101 billion. That is a big concern. Guys, we are just exporting 16 billion to China and we are importing 100 billion from China, more than 100 billion from China. This is a big concern. That is why the trade deficit is around 101. Okay, which means we are importing more than 110, 120 billion from China. This boom in the, okay, trade deficit, this boom in the trade deficit with China, which is 100 billion. Just imagine, we are having a 100 billion trade deficit with China. The reason is what? We are exporting only raw materials. We are exporting only raw materials, but we are importing what? We are importing electronics. We are importing solar energy. Solar energy equipments, basically solar cells. Okay, electric vehicles. Okay, batteries, lithium-ion batteries. Okay, all these things. So India is becoming a dependent country on Chinese economy, which is a very dangerous sign. Is this clear, guys? Anyone has any doubts? Okay, this is very important. Another fact which is very interesting, you should keep a note of it, that India has trade deficit with 9 countries, 9 top 10 countries. 9 top 10 countries. India has trade deficit. Just imagine. Can you name only country where we have a trade surplus? Can you name any country? It is America. All other countries, India has trade deficit. Top 10 I'm talking about. Next, China +1 strategy. This I have already explored. Okay, alternative to China. This I have already explored. Paris Club. What is Paris Club, guys? It is a group of country of creditors which give credit. Like it is in the news of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a country which is facing a lot of external problem. So this Paris Club is a country of, okay, creditors. Okay, guys. So next is the WTO, okay, news. So guys, peace clause, public stockholding issue, and special safeguard measures. Okay. So guys, what is peace clause, guys? So guys, there is one regulation, okay, which is called de minimis. What is de minimis? Guys, de minimis says that 10% only you can give subsidy of total production, only 10%. Total production only 10%. Okay, so countries like developing countries like India, where most of the farmers are poor, so government has to give a lot of support to the farmers. So government said that we cannot follow this 10% rule. Okay, so what did we get? We get a peace clause. What is peace clause? Okay, in the Bali, okay, Bali agreement, what happened? That government said that, okay, the WTO said that, okay, no problem, India will be not called for justification if it crosses the 10% limit. if it crosses the 10% limit. Why? Because of justification that India is a poor country and a lot of farmers are poor still. So government has to give some kind of support to the farmers. Okay, that is called peace clause. It's an agreement reached at WTO Bali meeting. It provides developing countries like India flexibility for allowing exceed subsidy of the diminished 10%. Okay, guys. Similarly, the public stock holding limit, okay, 10% subsidy. Okay. So this thing are very important. G33 is part of India, is part of G33. And there is another group called Cairn Group. Cairn Group. Cairn Group wants liberalized trade, whereas G33, okay, which is India is a part, they want some kind of concession for developing countries like India. Next, guys, WTO moratorium on e-commerce duties. Guys, what is this WTO moratorium on e-commerce duties, guys? So, guys, what happens is that, okay, when this e-commerce thing was coming up, internet was coming up. So, in order to give a boost to internet economy, okay, telecom economy, okay, what WTO did was, that there will be no import duty, there will be no custom duty, okay, on these e-commerce, okay. So why it was there? For obviously for growth of internet, growth of all these kinds of things, okay. But now the developing countries are saying that we are losing lot of revenues, because of this, okay. So India is now opposed to this moratorium on e-commerce duties. Government wants that now we must be allowed to, okay, levy, okay, custom duty on them. Okay. So next, guys, agreement on agriculture. Guys, this also we have discussed agreement on agriculture. Okay. Green box, amber box, blue box. Okay. Green box, non-trade distorting subsidies. Amber box considered to be moderately trade distorting, and blue box are considered to be highly trade distorting. Okay, guys, public stakeholding. Also, I have told you, guys, the 10% rule. Okay. So this is also very, very important. You may get question on that. Next topic, which is very important from the external trade perspective, is import management system. Guys, DGFT, okay, Directorate, okay, of basically Director General of Foreign Trade in India, okay, under the FTDR Act, notifies restrictions or quota or conditions on import of goods. So why are we discussing, guys? So Government of India introduced import management system on laptops and some other equipments in order to, okay, in order to boost domestic manufacturing. Is called import management system. So guys, this import management system are of different types, guys, like import authorization for restricted imports, tariff rate quota, registration certificate for imports, steel import monitoring system, coal import monitoring system, copper and aluminum import monitoring system, and chip importing monitoring system. Okay, so guys, there are a lot of various, okay, import monitoring system which is basically introduced by DGFT. The idea is to discourage import, okay, through various provisions which I have just showed you. So Government of India last year introduced the import management system for the laptops, Okay, guys. Next topic, very important. You can see here, guys, that Government of India has introduced import monitoring system for these laptops, tablets, PCs. Okay, and America is concerned that this should not be there. It's kind of a trade barrier. Okay, next, Fed policy rate. So guys, you see Fed is about to raise its interest rates. So how this is going to impact India? Guys, this is going to impact India by what? Okay, it will lead to what? Capital outflows from India, and capital will start flowing back to America. It will also lead to appreciation of dollar and depreciation of Indian rupee. It will also lead to rise in lending rates, and it will also lead to rise in deposit rates and other returns. Okay, so this is what is the impact of Fed policy rate on Indian economy. Okay, guys. So for today, this is it. I hope it was useful. Okay, thank you, guys. Bye bye. Take care. Tomorrow again, I will discuss the monetary policy and the capital markets. Capital markets, guys, SEBI is very, very important. So there are around 10-15 topics. I think it will come in exam. Tomorrow I will discuss. Tomorrow is the last day for economy. So I hope you are doing the economic test. Please do revise the important cards. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.